I've had countless birthdays in my life, but that night was meant to be different. Not because I was hitting some milestone or the restaurant was extravagant, though it certainly was, but because I had convinced myself this one might finally feel steady, normal. The past few months with Sarah had been tense. Sure, we'd been married nearly 10 years, so minor friction was expected, but I thought we were beyond the stage where everything could fall apart overnight. I remember the warm amber glow over our table, the soft clinking of glasses from the bar, and the faint scent of rosemary and charred steak drifting through the air. Friends and family surrounded us, faces alive with smiles and quiet conversation. Sarah looked stunning as always, in a green dress that made her eyes shine brighter. Almost the moment we sat down, she reached for her phone. At first, I thought she was simply replying to a quick message, but it kept happening. Time and again, her hand slipped beneath the table, the screen angled toward her lap. She'd glance up, give a faint smile, then her gaze would flick back down. Subtle, but I'd lived with her long enough to recognize the signs. The slight curl of her lips when amused, the rapid movement of her thumb as if the words needed to appear instantly. She wasn't messaging her sister or checking work emails. Whoever was on the other end was making her feel something that had no place at my birthday dinner. I took a slow sip of wine and observed her over the rim of my glass. My mind drifted back to recent patterns. New gym memberships, her laughter aimed more at her phone than me, the creeping distance in our conversations like a slow leak. I tried to convince myself it was just stress, a quiet season in our marriage where connection temporarily faded. But hearing her phone buzz for the third time in as many minutes, I couldn't ignore it anymore. Our guests seemed oblivious, or maybe they noticed and chose to stay out of it. The waiter brought out a bottle I'd been saving for years, and as he poured, I realized I had a choice. I could swallow my doubts for the night, or I could confront them. The tension between us was thick enough to feel. That's when the words came, sharp, almost absurd in their simplicity. It was as if they had been waiting for weeks, only needing a crack to slip out. I raised my glass, locked eyes with her, and with everyone watching, spoke to the man occupying my wife's attention. Some laughed awkwardly, thinking it a joke. Sarah froze mid-sip, her eyes widening for a split second before narrowing. She tried to laugh it off, twisting it into playful teasing, but the seriousness in my voice was unmistakable. She knew I saw, and in that moment, I noticed something flash across her face. Not guilt exactly, but fear. Conversations around the table stumbled, then resumed in hushed tones. My best friend Mark gave me a questioning look. My mother kept her gaze on her plate. Sarah didn't reach for my hand, offer an explanation, or even hide the phone. She just continued eating, hoping silence would erase what happened. But I couldn't unsee it. The secret on her lap, her attention elsewhere. I couldn't track it. I didn't know him yet, but I knew he existed. And with an unsettling clarity, I realized this birthday would mark the last time we'd sit at the same table pretending our marriage was intact. I smiled through the remainder of the meal while my stomach twisted with each toast and laugh. Inside, my mind was already moving pieces. I'd faced betrayal before. Not with her, but in other forms. And I knew some battles weren't won in the heat of the moment. They were dismantled quietly, step by step, until the truth was undeniable. Sarah didn't realize it, but the countdown had started. Once it finished, everything she thought she had would change. After that birthday dinner, nothing about our outward interactions shifted. We still shared a bed, still exchanged polite questions, still maintained the facade. But inside, I had stopped trying to fix what I couldn't see. I began to watch instead. The first rule: slow, deliberate observation. No rash accusations. I knew that confronting her without proof would only alert her, giving her time to cover tracks and leave me chasing shadows. I stayed calm. A week later, I bought a new phone on a separate account. Simple, discreet. I opened a small bank account in a different branch, away from our joint statements. Then I quietly began observing. People reveal themselves in ways they don't notice. One night, she fell asleep on the couch, TV low, phone glowing on the coffee table. I didn't touch it. I didn't have to. The last message preview was enough. Wish you were here instead. Unknown number, no name saved. That alone confirmed she was hiding him from me. From there, the puzzle started to take shape. Thursday night book clubs, errands that took suspiciously long extra time in front of the mirror, calls she'd taken another room. I noted patterns. When she left, what she wore, which car she took. Even her favorite necklace, worn for outings with friends but never with me. Small details that seemed harmless on their own slowly revealed something ugly. It was on one of those Thursdays that I decided to follow her. Not too close to scare her off, just enough to know her destination. She drove to a downtown hotel I'd never seen her enter before. Parked in the underground lot, she was gone just over 2 hours, returning with her hair slightly tousled and a different shade of lipstick than she had left with. I didn't confront her that evening. Instead, I made coffee, asked how book club went, and watched her lie behind a polite smile. That night, I reached out to an old contact from a business deal years prior, a private investigator who could move silently. I gave him her schedule, the hotel address, and a timeline. I told him I didn't want gossip, just proof that could stand in court. Meanwhile, I began insulating myself financially. Portions of our savings were moved into separate investment accounts she didn't know existed. I stopped depositing certain earnings into our joint account. I rerouted business paperwork so fewer documents arrived at the house. On the surface, I remained affectionate, present, attentive. Beneath it, I was building walls she wouldn't notice until she collided with them. 2 weeks later, the PI called. Calm, professional, but his words hit harder than expected. Photos, video, receipts, and a name. The man was someone I'd met once before at her office holiday party. He had shaken my hand with a confident grin that I had dismissed as charm. Now I recognized it for what it truly was. Control, or at least the illusion of it. I thanked the investigator, hung up, and sat in the dark, absorbing the fact that there was no more guessing. No more benefit of the doubt. I could have confronted her immediately, shouted, demanded answers, but I didn't. What I wanted wasn't just the truth. I wanted the moment she realized I had known all along and had planned every step. That moment was coming. The night I chose was deliberate. Sarah was hosting a small dinner at our home. Just a few close friends, some wine, a night she thought would be safe while I played the oblivious husband. I had already spoken to my lawyer. The documents were signed, sealed. The PI's files rested neatly in my study drawer. Stills, timestamps, receipts, impossible to dispute. My financial moves were complete. If she walked out after tonight, she'd leave with far less than she imagined. Guests arrived around 7 o'clock. Laughter filled the room, mingling with the aroma of roasted lamb from the kitchen. Sarah, radiant in her green dress, flitted from friend to friend with a glass of red wine, reminiscent of the woman I had fallen for years ago. For a brief instant, a ghost of that old pull flickered within me, but then I noticed the glow of her phone on the counter, the name I now knew all too well illuminating the screen. Dinner began smoothly, almost too smoothly. Conversations remained light, drifting from work gossip to weekend plans. Sarah slipped her phone into her lap multiple times, her thumb moving fast under the table. I caught the slight curve of her smile each time she read a message. No one else seemed to notice. Halfway through the meal, I refilled everyone's glasses. My pulse wasn't racing, it was steady, deliberate, trained for this exact moment. I glanced at her, then at the friends around the table, and raised my glass. Someone began to toast good company, but I interrupted, smiling just enough to keep the room relaxed. To the man who's been keeping my wife busy, I said, voice warm but edged. Forks froze midair. A nervous chuckle escaped one guest but died when they saw my face. Sarah's hand paused on her glass. She didn't ask which man. Her eyes only stared at me, a faint flush coloring her cheeks. That said everything. Silence stretched, heavy, until Mark shifted. Someone cleared their throat. Sarah set her glass down slowly. "That's not funny," she said. I kept my gaze on her. "It's not a joke." She parted her lips, closed them again. Her phone buzzed loudly in the quiet. She didn't reach for it. I let the pause linger. I know you, Sarah. I know where you go on Thursdays. I know who he is, and I know exactly how long it's been going on. Her lips parted, but I wasn't interested in the script she had rehearsed. I reached into my jacket and placed a sealed envelope on the table. Everything's in there, I added. Photos, hotel receipts, messages. Some guests shifted uneasily. Mark stared at his plate. Sarah didn't touch the envelope. She just sat, eyes flicking between me and the others, calculating which version of truth she could spin. I didn't give her the chance. This, I said calmly, conversationally, will be the last dinner we host together. Papers are filed. Accounts are separated. The house is no longer in your name. Her eyes widened briefly before she masked her expression. I pushed back my chair, lifted my glass one last time and said, "Enjoy your evening." Then I walked out. I didn't hear her call my name. I don't think she did. Outside the air was cool, quiet. I breathed in deeply, feeling something I hadn't in months. Control. Not revenge, not victory. Just the stillness of stepping out of someone else's deception. As I left my own house behind, I knew she was sitting at the table, replaying every moment of the last months, finally realizing the truth. I hadn't just found out. I had been watching all along.